So, how does one recover from sex and love addiction?
Well, a lot of work over a long period of time. I mean, I watch those clips and it makes me really sad because in my career I've known people who have either certainly thought about killing themselves, if not attempted suicide over this problem. And depending on how serious the person's issues are will depend on what venue they can get help from. Many people get sober in 12-step programs the world over. It's a free program, it's a self-help program, it's a community, an army of people helping people that I think is extraordinary, and we're really lucky to have such a robust sexual recovery community in this city. If somebody can't stay sober in a 12-step program, there are individual therapists that are trained in treating sex and love addiction. At organizations like mine, the Center for Healthy Sex, we offer a Step Up, which is an intensive outpatient program. And if somebody's got multiple addictions, which oftentimes people that have this problem do, alcoholism, drug addiction, eating disorders, an inpatient stay is recommended for 30 or 40 days. But people do recover their lives from this problem. They go on to live healthy lives, vital lives. I've had many people get married on my watch and have children and repair marriages that were just ripped apart from this problem, 20 years of lying plus. So people do get help and do reclaim their lives.
Yeah, I'm going to take a brief detour into brain science, if I may, because I'm actually a science geek despite my appearance. I spoke earlier about the Society of Addiction Medicine saying that this is essentially a brain disease, and what a lot of the researchers believe now is that people prone to addiction have a defect in the reward center of the brain. One of our recovering addicts spoke about just going directly to the reward center and getting that immediate payoff. From something that's highly stimulating, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex. Infatuation, my favorite drug, infatuation, which are, as Chris spoke of, very heavily dopamine laced. And what we do as we go directly, taking that shortcut, bypassing the prefrontal cortex, which is where you make good decisions like, I will not cheat on my spouse, I will not pay all this money for prostitutes, I will not get caught with porn on my office computer. We bypass that decision-making area of the brain and just take a shortcut directly to the reward center down in the caudate region. And the more we do it, the deeper we cut what I call the cow path, the neural cow path. And that's the addiction cycle that helps create this horrible cycle of craving, repetition, compulsion, and withdrawal. When we start changing our behavior, and you think, well, how can going to meetings and calling someone and telling them what they're thinking and all these namby-pamby things that people do with therapists or in 12-step groups, how is that going to change an addict brain? Well, what it does is it starts slowly moving you out of that neural cow path. It starts creating new connections. It starts using the neuroplasticity of our brains in our favor instead of against us. And slowly it'll work new brain pathways through the prefrontal cortex and stop taking that awful short circuit through, directly into the reward center of the brain. Because the horrible thing about desensitizing yourself for dopamine is that the more you hit yourself with dopamine, the more desensitized you become. And that just increases the vicious cycle. And so the way to break an addiction is to change your behavior until you actually start changing your brain chemistry. And just as the genetics, the neurochemistry and the behavior intertwined to create the addiction, you can do the same thing to untangle them and untangle the addiction. That was my detour into science. Thank you for your patience.
And thank God for brain plasticity.
Yes.
I mean, but what's important to me is a lot of education as well. I agree with what they both said. I run a lot of groups, sex and love addiction groups, and we talk a lot about the symptoms and the signs, and then I say to them, well, what does a healthy relationship or a healthy sexuality look like? And they don't know. And they're not supposed to know, because culturally we're very sick in terms of both of those. And I say to them, don't go ask your friends. They don't know any better as well. They don't know any better. So a lot of the work is about educating them on what the goal looks like, what new behaviors that they want to try to lay down in their wiring of their brain and habituate themselves to So I think education is a key component. And 12-step program, it works for some people, it's not for everyone. But either way, you need a healthy social support network that kind of holds you accountable to better behaviors, holds the bar high for yourself. I think that's a really important component as well.
Well, yeah, because this is at its core an attachment disorder, and so communing with other human beings, knowing that somebody's actually going to be there for you, that you will get your needs met, that you matter in the world, that starts to change the attachment center of the brain as well.
And to the addicts, would you like to speak about recovery?
Miles, sex addict. First off, I want to say that not all 12-step programs are for everybody. They are not all built the same. I am a big proponent with sex and love addiction of therapy, particularly because with sex addiction, it's everyone has such differently personalized pathologies of what their thing is. It's amazing. You sit in a meeting with all these men, and half of whom I can't relate to their experiences, but I can relate to the feeling of degradation and hopelessness. But in terms of them trying to find a healthy sexual behavior, a non-compulsive sexuality for the future, I would hate to have to rely on the lay people to say, what, this is maybe a good idea and this maybe isn't, and that's why I think it's very beneficial to have someone who's worked with a lot of sex addicts and has all that information. So I'm a very big proponent of therapy in that regard.
And I'm curious, Carmen and Bud, did you work with therapists as well?
Carmen, sex and love addict. I was really fortunate in the early days. It's been about 13, 14 years I've been in recovery. I did get to go to 2 inpatient treatment centers when I started this process because I was trying to commit suicide. And so yes, I did, and then I did outpatient treatment. And I had brilliant therapists who I drove crazy, but they stuck with me and really helped me and taught me what I needed to know. From there, I was able to get into 12-step program, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, where I've been in the last 13 years. And so it was in the early days a lot of therapy that started my process, yes.
And I'm Bud, sexually compulsive. I have seen, I've gotten the benefit of other people's therapists by being in the 12-step programs. The best recovery I've seen have been in people that come into the program and they have a therapist and attending regularly the 12-step recovery meetings of their choice. And in ours, we establish a sexual recovery plan that's consistent with our values, so that if I make the rules and then I break the rules, that says something about me. We would never say that our program is the only way to recover. There are many ways to recover, and we want the best for you. You go to where you need to get the recovery. But it's important that when you find a place that you feel comfortable, get to know them, let them know you, and bond with people, make mistakes, learn, and you will do better. It's important to stick around because it doesn't happen overnight. But if you keep sticking around, it will eventually happen.
And I want to just chime in on one other thing, Miles, sex addict here. Because I really feel it's so beneficial to have a therapist. The thing that is unfortunate is a lot of the people that I've met who really clearly need a therapist are unable to afford therapy. And the unfortunate thing right now is because these are sort of the early pioneering days of really making sex addiction recovery mainstream, that I don't think that type of thing is readily available where people can find, floating scale, unless the experts out there can tell me otherwise, but that would be really great if there were something available for the people who are financially challenged.
I agree. You have to be careful who you see treatment-wise. There's a lot of people that claim to be specializing in this that have no training and no background, and that horrifies me. Therapy is expensive, and I think a lot of times this might sound rough, but it has to come from your self-esteem that you're worth putting the time and money into making it work. Good therapists charge a lot. And if you can't afford that, group is always an option, and there are low-fee sliding scale places that might not be trained in this, but they can still work with some of the symptoms like the depression, anxiety, and boundary setting. And
Yeah,
12
and good
steps.
addicts, not a lot of self-esteem.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they will spend a lot of money on acting out sexually.
Well, and that's what it is. You'll drop all that money and you find a way to make it work for acting out, but you can't pull together for a therapist.
Prostitute
Yeah,
therapist.
sure. God bless it.
Well, and to close out, Brandon, hopeless, eligible for recovery. How would you treat him?
Oh, I want to take a survey. Who thinks that Brandon is going to, he's going to do the right about face at the end of this film and walk away from the woman towards health, and who thinks he's going to go fall back into his old patterns? So, healthy, show of hands.
Yikes.
Back into the old way,
Yeah,
show of hands.
He's back.
Okay, I think it's a room full of pessimists. And what's the third option?
What's the third option? Oh, I forgot. Caroline said it. She said the road for recovery is long, so even if he goes with her that day, maybe the next day he won't, and it might go back and forth like that for a while.
I like that, and my thought was actually the sort of the flip side of that, which is I think that catharsis was going to lead to a period of remission, that he would backslide, but then he's on his road to recovery at the end of the film.
But he didn't look like a guy who was going to go calling up a therapist. the
No,
next day.
I think he would have gone with the woman on the subway.
Yeah, I don't think one good cry is spontaneous remission from a lifelong disease.
He had no real consequences until he loses his job, until he loses everything that has any meaning to him, which wasn't much. Maybe his sister dying, I don't know, but he had to really, there had to be a click and a consequence for him.
Yeah. And even her multiple suicide attempts had no permanent consequences. I mean, we saw it's like rings in a tree, the scars in her arm.
Can I say something on Bud, sexually compulsive? I think he needed a star to guide to. He needed some hope, and I saw none of it. Actually, it appeared as though there was incest in his family, and I saw no hope for him. And for me to let go meant that I needed to feel that it was going to be okay, and I didn't see that here.
I'd like to thank Alex Katahakis, Chris Donahue, Ethlie Ann Vare, and our 3 recovering sex addicts, Miles from Sex Addicts Anonymous, Bud from Sexual Compulsives Anonymous, and Carmen from Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. I'd also like to thank, hold your applause. I'd also like to thank American Cinematheque for hosting, the Center for Healthy Sex, and 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment for co-producing. And a big thanks to Steve McQueen, Michael Fassbender, Carrie Mulligan, and the cast and crew of Shame, and all of you. Thank you.